Alright, now let's start getting our variables working for our internal clock system. So one of the first things we're going to need to do is when our event calls itself or begins to start counting, we need to find out, hey, are we switching to character 1 or are we switching to character 2? And we can do this by using a branch. So holding down B, I can click and I can make myself a branch. I can drag this into a branch. And what we need to do from here is we need to find out what's the condition. Well, we had a bool set up that actually would find out for us, are we switching to character 1 or character 2? Well, if it's true, then we're going to be switching to character 2. If it's not, we must be going back to character 1. So we can drag this into from our variables tab. Just drag that right up and we'll switch to character 2. And we will need to also plug in our bool sets, or else it won't know what to do with that variable if there's nothing setting the variable initially. So that should set our variable up, and let's go back again here and continuing on. So what happens if we are switching to character 2 from the starter character? Okay, first thing that's going to have to happen is it's going to have to do what it's going to need to do a few things, and it first needs to find out who the character is and are they a pawn or what. Well, they are, but we need to determine this from the game state. The game state, since we set up in the game state that the characters are initially set up as a pawn, it should know, hey, if this character is a pawn, I can inherit it. So we need to call that from the game state. So we can do a get game state. From this game state, we can drag it out and we can do a cast to example map game state. So this is the one that we made. Now, you can drag in multiple nodes, but we wouldn't want to drag this one in because it would be casting it every single time it's counted. So for this, I'm just going to do a convert to pure cast. So you can right click on this and do convert to pure, and this will know if this is pretty much saying that yes, this is true instead of having a true false. But sometimes using this is not good for debug purposes, but for this, since I've set it up initially, it will work. So from here we need to find out who our pawns are. Well, we have a secondary. There we go. In our defaults we have a secondary, and we need to get him, and we also have a primary. And we also need to get this one as well. Now, dragging out, once we discovered who the pawn is, we need to find out, okay, what's his blueprint? So we can cast that as well to secondary character. So now, if you look back in the content browser, now it's actually looking for this. Let's go back to our character swapper again. And I'm going to convert this to a pure cast as well. So once it finds that, we need to find out in this blueprint, we need to find the component of the camera. So we need the camera, and it'll say get view follow camera, or we can come down to the bottom of this and find the components of get follow camera. Now once we've found that camera, we need to do two things with it like we've already done with the other components. We can type it in, or we can just copy it easily enough. Was we need to get the world location, we need to get the rotation. So let's just copy these two nodes, come back down, let's go ahead and we'll just do the same thing again. And again, we're needing to set up a new promotion to variables for both the location and the rotation. So I'm going to come down to the components here. Now if you noticed earlier, these are going to be our secondary positions for where this camera needs to go. So if we move upwards towards our timeline again, we're going to plug our variables into here. So let's rename our variables really quickly from A, world location, and let's call this one B, so it's world location. The reason I put a space there between B space world location is because if you do this as all one word, it won't separate them at all, because it reads it like it's a whole capital. So I usually just put a space in there just because it's one of my OCD things, I guess. but for now I'm just going to leave it alone. So let's plug in the B world location, and let's type, oh, I need to rename that to rotation, holy cow. B world, there we go. So let's name this, plug it into B world rotation. So now the values are going to be set up for where this camera needs to go, start from, and where it needs to go to. So let's come back down to here, and now we need to have something read this. So we can plug in true into this, but I like to know that this one's not being updated first before this one is. So like, I'll like to break that into a sequence, and I'll be calling both of these at the same time. So let's drag this away. Actually, let's sort this out a little bit better. So one thing I like about blueprints, even though I'm not a coder, is I get to just drag things around. It's like I'm drawing or something, I don't know. Not a good punchline. Okay, so now that we have our first character, let's do the same thing. So let's copy a lot of this. Just copy a sequence of copy these 4 parts. Let's bring this down for our primary character. So if we're switching to character 2 and we're not, then we need to come down to sequence and we need to get the A and B world location. Just like before, we need to do a cast to primary. I'm going to convert that to a pure cast. I'm going to bring this up, and we need to find the follow camera, or whatever your camera is called for that character's in that character's components. So from here, I'm just going to bring this below, plug that camera right into both the world location and rotation. So we name this one here for find primary character, and we'll select all this here, and we'll call this one find secondary character. Alright, I'm just going to color code these, one being red, the other being the polar opposite, which being blue, or purple, whatever, anyhow. So this is going to be our internal clock. So while this runs, whoa, there we go. So this is our can't see it, there we go. Find the camera locations and rotations. Alright, so our internal clock is now done. So whenever this first gets fired off, it's going to go ahead and continuously search every 0.01 seconds where the camera is. So if these characters are inherited by AI, then if the AI is running, it's not going to zoom to the last location the AI is at. It's actually going to find where that camera is if the AI is constantly on the move. So we should be almost done here. Now the last part that we're going to need is we need to be able to shut this off once our camera has completely moved. And we also need to tell our camera system, hey, once you've found where you need to go, I need you to change over to the other character. I want to inherit what that guy does. So let's go with camera lerp movement. And let's go with the finish. So once this timeline is completed, we can do a print string for debug, and let's just call this print movement complete. And we're not going to be possessing anybody just yet, but we do need to turn off that timer when we want to debug this in a second here. So let's go with pause timer by handle, and our handler is going to be that variable that we created for that timer. So we compile, save all, and we come back to the map. We play it. So now we're running around, and if I push tab, I should move over to his location. Or not, I could just move towards a world space. We all make mistakes, it happens, we're all human. Let's see, did I miss a node somewhere? Okay, well, I'm just gonna keep going here. Let's get the rest of this let's get the rest of this blueprint completed here. So we are gonna need a branch because we need to determine who to possess when we move down here. Again, control drag, and I want to go ahead and bring in our switching to character 2. So when this becomes true, we want to do a couple of things. Again, we're going to need that game state to determine who's the pawns and what do they do. So we can easily save ourselves some time by dragging over this, holding down shift. We can drag over that one, and the primary and secondary characters, copy and paste them. And I'm just going to bring these guys a little closer together so I can see better. Now from the secondary character, I'm going to bring this out and say possess. No possess. Oh, that's right. We can't get an in pawn for possess. We actually need to do a get pawn. We need to get the pawn, and then we need to find out its controller. From this, we should be able to get a possess. Yes. And we're going to need this for both characters. Just copy that and we'll paste it, and we'll plug these in the same way. Now for this, we want to go ahead and make a little bit more space here. We're going to drag in our secondary character to be this first pawn, and our primary character to be the bottom. So this will be at the very end. And when we possess these characters, we're going to go ahead and type in our print string, and we're going to pause the timer so the counter stops moving. So if switching to character 2 is true, we'll become character 2. If we're switching to character, if we're not switching to character 2, we should go back to character 1 because we are character 2. So let's rename this by going to, oh yes, and then we also don't want to keep the character swapper actor in the world anymore since we spawned him. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to destroy the actor. So let's copy that, or I'm sorry, not copy that, let's just comment it in with possess character and destroy the switcher. Alright, so let's compile, save it, and let's see what we have on time here. Alright, we're about 13 minutes in. Let's see if we can get this done. So we can do a quick test in the viewport. Hopefully we don't go back to world space again. If we do, I gotta take a look at the code really quickly, and I'll pause the video and check what I did wrong so I'm not wasting your time. So if we push tab, we're back to world space again, but we inherited our other character, or back to character 1. So okay, I'm going to debug this real quick, and then we will go ahead and continue on from there. I won't skip any steps, but I'll explain what I did wrong. So I'll see you in the next video.